Hi, I'm Mindie Burgoyne, and I'm going to talk to you today about driving in Ireland. It's probably one of the top 5 questions I get about Ireland. You know, we do tours to Ireland, we book individual tours for people, and one of the questions that's always on their mind, if they haven't already driven in the UK or Ireland, is how hard is it to sit on the other side of the car and drive on the left side of the road? And the answer is yes, you can drive in Ireland, and it's not difficult. It is stressful, which is different than difficult. Now, stress can be difficult, but here's the thing about driving in Ireland, or driving in that reverse way. This is what I wish people had told me. 2 things. One is that your spatial understanding does not work in Ireland. Your spatial understanding of where your car and the road is. And just think this through. When you are a brand new driver, or if you've ever taught somebody to drive like a teenager, they can't just pull into a parking space. They don't know where the car is in relation to the other cars that they might hit. And eventually they get this spatial understanding of where the car is in relationship to the boundaries in the road. That's how you know how far you can go over this way in a lane or that way in a lane without going over the line. It isn't just visual, it's a sense of where the lines are, how much room you have between the car and the edge of the lane. And the reason this doesn't work in Ireland is because the roads are narrower. So you go over there with your understanding of where the end of the road is in a car, and the end of the road is closer in Ireland. And so what you find people doing all the time, remember, they're sitting on that other side of they're sitting on the other side of the car, and they will drive really far over to the left because they're judging by that line that's right by where they're driving, which is on this side, right? They keep their distance from the oncoming cars, but it's more distance than they really need to keep. We have very wide roads, much wider than most countries. So when you leave too much space between you and the center line, you get too far over to the edge of the road. And that's why people are always running into brush and running into the curb and because they're naturally assessing the road the way they would in America. So what that means is you have to focus on that. When you get in, stay in the middle of the road and don't be so afraid to get a little closer to the center line. You have room and you need to acquire that understanding. Otherwise, you'll be constantly, you hear people talk about how, my husband, for example, people that are sitting in the passenger side talk about how they always feel like they're going to hit the side of the road, that the driver is driving too far over and those walls are right there. And then they lose mirrors and puncture tires and things because it really can cause problems when you get into really narrow places and you're going too fast. So that's one thing. The second thing I wish somebody had told me is that you need to concentrate all the time. You need to focus on focusing. And what I mean by that is when we drive normally, if you're an experienced driver, you move the driving process right into your subconscious. You don't think about, oh, I need to shift now, or oh, I need to turn on my blinker. Oh, I need to turn the wheel like this. You don't think about that. I need to look this way or that way. Which way do I look? You don't think about that because you know what to do inherently because it's coming from the subconscious. That's another reason why you can end up, someplace in your journey and go, how did I get here? You don't even remember passing through because your subconscious took over and handled the driving motions. That can happen when you're driving in Ireland, because if your subconscious takes over, you're going to drift over into what you're used to, which in this case would be the right side of the road, which would be in oncoming traffic. So you can't do, looking around at the scenery, it's a beautiful country. And so you're kind of tempted to look at but the roads are too narrow, too curvy, and your focus has to be on the road. So you can't expect that driving's going to be like that. When you're driving, you're going to be driving and paying attention to the road and where you are in the road and what's coming up. And you'll have to be focused on that. And that's why it's stressful because, I could drive 5 or 6 hours in a day in America because I don't have to focus constantly on the driving process. But you really need to do that when you're in Ireland. So a couple of other things. People ask, I can't imagine driving a stick shift when I have to, shift with my left hand and that isn't hard at all. I thought the same thing, and I rented automatics back when it was really, really expensive, more than double the price, when they had very few available. But really, it's not hard. And they have much more modern cars now, so that you don't have a lot of the rolling back when you're in neutral. And it's much easier. I found it very easy. I know how to drive a standard transmission here in America. I've always known that. So if you know how to do that, it's not difficult. Don't let that throw you. One thing that might make it easier for you, let me just look at my notes here, with adjusting is, understand that there is no insurance that covers tires. So tires, if you puncture a tire or get a nick in a tire or get a nail in a tire, things that here in the States might cost you under $50 to repair, they charge you for a whole new tire in Ireland at most rental car companies. They don't charge you for a repair. If you do anything to the tire, you will pay for a tire. So if you've got glass or rough terrain where there might be nails, know that if something gets in that tire, they charge you for a tire. Your home insurance won't pay for it. Your credit card insurance won't pay for it. And none of the insurance that Ireland offers with the rental car companies pays for it. And I know that because I tried it the hard way. Why don't they? Because people wreck the tires in Ireland all the time for the same reasons I just told you. I was so surprised when I just had a little nick in the tire. It was not anything that I thought was anything crazy. There wasn't a slit, it wasn't a hole, it didn't affect the air pressure, but they said, look, you have to pay for a whole new tire. They charged me, the cost on my credit card came through at $300 because of the switch with euros. And when I was in Belfast, so it was the switch with the pounds. So when I went back to American Express, who I had offers automotive insurance on rental cars, understand that the credit card company insurance, if you rent the car with your credit card, a lot of them carry auto insurance. The best one I found of all the credit cards I use, and I have a bunch, was the American Express Platinum. They have the most full comprehensive coverage on auto rental internationally, but they wouldn't cover the tire in Ireland. They would cover the tires in other places, but not in Ireland. And that's because too many people mess up the tires in Ireland. So, and that's the third thing to know about your insurance company. It is really worthwhile to take the time, and maybe an hour or two is what it will take, before you ever go to the country and rent a car, to check out your car rental company's insurance policies, which insurances they offer and which is the best one for you. And then look at your credit card insurance. Almost all of them are secondary. In other words, if you rent a car and you use the American Express Platinum and you want to file a claim, they have to first go to Hertz or Budget or whatever the company was and find out what insurance you had, and have to get a statement from them that you were either not insured or you were insured, and this is what you got and this is what they paid. And they will communicate with that rental car company. It can take months. It can literally take months to get back whatever little bit you needed. So if you do research on the front end and are fully informed before you go into it, it's much less confusing. So I would also recommend, if you're driving in Ireland, to do that. Bigger is not always better. When I was in Scotland last year, I knew I was going to be, I know my way around Ireland, and I know my way all around, and as much as I know my own home state, but I don't know my way around Scotland. And I'd never driven in Scotland where I was going to be going at this time. So I rented an automatic, and I got a I got a Volvo. So it wasn't a huge car, it wasn't a Suburban, but it wasn't a little tiny car. And when you get a bigger car and you're working with that spatial understanding, like parking and things, it's even harder. Parallel parking, I'm thinking. And some of these cars, they don't even have, the cars are different than ours. And the Volvo didn't even have a way I could look with the mirrors. So when you get a bigger car, it makes that spatial perception even a little bit more difficult because your car's taking up more space. So if you can handle a smaller car, maybe not the compact, but the economy or smaller than intermediate, that might make the driving process easier. So that's all I really have to say about that. Understand that people in Ireland, one thing you don't see like you do in the States is police around giving tickets, police on the road, radar traps. They have a lot of photo cameras for speeding. They use those a lot, but they don't police the roads the way we police the roads, especially the back roads. And so what you might find, I find that people who grew up in Ireland drive as fast as they possibly can without losing control. So when they're doing those back roads, they are fast. You know, you just wonder how they cannot, flip the car over, but they know what they're doing, and they do drive very fast. So it's best to just yield to them. You know, when you see somebody coming right up on your bumper, just get out of the way. Don't compete for time or get into any kind of a road rage, or just let them have the right of way, because that's what they're used to. And I think that's all I have to say about driving. It is stressful, but it's such a beautiful country. And driving gives you so much more flexibility. You can come and go as you please and see what you want. And a lot of the sites are well suited for the individual driver. So don't be fearful, just be thoughtful and be focused, and you'll have a great time.